In this video, you will learn about sourcing your Amazon products from not only China, but also from Vietnam, from US, from Mexico, and India. My guest today is Gary Huang from Seven Figure Seller Summit, and he's a sourcing expert, and he will give you some tips and pros and cons and advantages, disadvantages of sourcing products from mentioned countries. He is also the host of Seven Figure Sourcing Summit. You will find the link below in the description if you want to learn more about sourcing and deep dive in this topic. Check for his online event link below. If in general you enjoy the content while you're watching, don't forget to click like below this video and subscribe to our channel. Hello Gary, it's nice to have you here. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do in Amazon space?
Hi, Augustus. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Gary Huang. I'm the founder and host of Seven Figure Seller Summit and 80/20 Sourcing. And I work with many Amazon and e-commerce sellers all over the world to really help them build, scale, and exit their businesses. And today we're going to talk about sourcing, how everything's changing in 2022. And we're going to walk through how to source products from not one, but 5 different countries, China, Vietnam, Mexico, India, and USA. So I'm very excited to be on to share with you guys today.
Yeah, it's great. So let's jump to your slides and let's learn how can we source from different countries in 2022.
Definitely. So first off, a quick game plan for today. We're going to talk about first how sourcing is changing. Traditionally, everyone's thinking about sourcing from China. It's kind of like a one-trick pony, but now things are changing. I'm going to share with you some of the latest data as of 2022. We're seeing why people are moving around to other parts of the world. And then we're going to go quickly through the 5 different countries so you can learn some of the strengths and some of the weaknesses so you can make a decision about which country you want to learn more about to source from. And then at the end, I have a special offer for everyone watching today. If you want to learn more, we're creating this online event where we're really going to deep dive into sourcing with all different countries. I'll share more about that for those of you that stick around till the end. Okay, so Augustus, feel free to jump in anytime if you have any questions. I like to keep this interactive as a dialogue. Okay, so first things first, as you can see in this research study made by Kima, they surveyed a number of American and European buyers. So you can see that the sourcing, the country of sourcing is changing. So if you look at the top 2019, 61% of US and EU buyers were sourcing from China. I mean, everyone knows China's the leader, but as of 2022, the first quarter, you can see the number has decreased to 47%. So that's about a 14% drop, if my math is correct. And Augustus, correct me if my math is wrong. So you're seeing that China has seen less people sourcing from them for a number of reasons. As of right now, we've seen on the news, there's the COVID cases, there's the lockdowns of over 26 million people in Shanghai. You hear things are opening up, but things are, very volatile, right? So because of these factors, a lot of people are implementing a China +1 strategy, or some people are moving out of China. So as you can see here, some of the beneficiaries you're seeing here is Vietnam. You're seeing some growth in Vietnam. India is probably the fastest riser. You're seeing they've gone from 6% in 2019 to 10%. That's a 4% jump. You're also seeing some more interest in Bangladesh, Cambodia, India, Turkey, and all others. All others would include sourcing from Mexico and the US. So I wanted to first off kind of set the table for you guys to see that many sellers are shifting their sourcing. That's why you guys need to be on the forefront of things. You don't want to be left behind. All right. And Augustus, if you have any questions, let me know. All right. So next, I'd like to first focus on China. So China is basically the king of sourcing, and they pretty much they provide everything under the sun. You can find all sorts of products. I mean, pretty much you name it, it can be found in China. However, as we mentioned earlier, China is kind of volatile right now. Even if your factory isn't in or around Shanghai, the nearby Zhejiang or Jiangsu regions, sometimes your product may have a raw material that's in that region. And if so, it may be affected by the lockdowns because China is really having trouble moving the supply chain within China, especially with all the trucking. And also, literally these truckers, they have to get COVID tests once they try to cross one territory to another. So some of these truckers, they don't even bother. They say, forget it, I'm not even going to go. So that's causing disruptions in the supply chain on the China side, even if your factory isn't immediately locked down. We're also seeing, obviously the main pro of China compared to those other countries is finding suppliers or factories are relatively easy. As you know, there's online tools like Alibaba, Global Sources, and however, on the other hand, the costs of China are rising. I mean, they've been rising even before all of the COVID and pandemic effects, right? With the labor cost, the material cost. So China's not as cheap as before. Okay, so that's why you want to consider some of the other countries. And then now we're seeing longer, more extended lead times along with the COVID pandemic effects. Some sourcing experts say that you really should add an additional buffer of about 50% in the delivery lead time, just so that you're not surprised by that. So if the supplier says expect 30 days, I would say, be conservative, probably budget 45 days just in case something happens, or with, after the order is done, they may have a hard time even shipping it out because of the port congestion. One of the other downsides to China, obviously, I don't have it on the slide, but everyone knows about the tariffs, right? I mean, ever since Trump instituted the 25% tariffs several years ago, they're still here now, even with the Biden administration. I mean, there's some talks that there are exceptions to the rule, but, this is pretty much a cost of doing business with China that you have to consider, that 25% tariff. And another disadvantage with China is there's many copycats, right? Sometimes your own factory will sell the product on Amazon against you. I've had it happen to me. So that's the picture that we're seeing right now in China. China is still the world leader. I'm not seeing China going away anytime soon, but because of all these factors, it adds some complexity to sourcing from China. So that's why it may make sense for you guys to consider some different options. All right. So one of the other top options that we're seeing today is India. So India is the fastest rising country in terms of sourcing, as we saw from the previous slide. The government is really pouring a lot of investment into their manufacturing, but to be honest, India is maybe 10 or 15 years behind China in terms of, getting a head start. China got that head start in like the 2000s. India is just getting off the blocks just a few years ago. Okay, so they're catching up. They're trying to catch up, but only certain products would be a good fit sourcing from India. We're going to talk more about the details of that just in a few minutes. Some of the key ways that you can differentiate yourself sourcing from India is the products, many of them are handmade. They're unlike China because China is more like machine made, more, you think of that production line with that machine and everyone's just turning on the machine and just like spits out all the metal parts. India is like it's like black and white. So you see more manual labor, more people hands-on the production line, cutting, sewing, wooden products, eco-friendly products. Those are some of India's strong suits. Okay, you're seeing a lot of jute, organic cottons, more one of a kind type products that are different from your like run-of-the-mill products that you're seeing from China. Also, India, it may or may not be worth the wait, especially with your first order sourcing from India. It may take a longer time. Your first order from China, from initial contact to getting it shipped out could be a couple months. For India, we've seen some people it takes up to 5-6 months, half a year. Okay, just because the whole thing, it moves not as fast as China. I think one of the other benefits of India is you can really differentiate your brand. I noticed that some sellers sourcing from India, they actually implemented some of the brand story from the India production and manufacturing, because India has a lot of artisans, a lot of local communities that get involved. So that's another way that you can differentiate yourself and differentiate your brand as you source from India. All right. So next, I'd like to highlight one of the other hotspots that people are looking to source from. And one of the other trends, the sourcing trends we're seeing is nearshoring. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, Augustus. Have you heard of that, nearshoring?
No, I hear it first time.
Nearshoring is actually it actually is exactly what it sounds like, right? I mean, from like a US perspective, rather than sourcing from very far away, like a China or India, they want to source from nearby. Why? Because the extended lead times, the high shipping costs, over $20,000 a container. The thinking is, if I can source from a nearby destination, such as a Mexico, which is just south of the border from the US, I can save a lot of time. I can reduce my shipping costs, and I can actually increase my cash flow because I don't have to order so many units, because the delivery time will be shorter, because we're seeing more extended delivery times from China. So that's on a high level. We're seeing a lot of supply chain professionals going nearshoring, right? So Mexico is one of the candidates in order to do that. So I'd like to discuss some of the pros and the cons. I think one of the biggest surprises for sellers as they source from Mexico is that they need to educate the manufacturers sometimes. What do I mean by that? The manufacturers in Mexico may not be as experienced, especially with types of Amazon ready or consumer products. So you literally would have to explain to them what type of product you need, and also the quality level, the packaging. They may not be as ready as China. Like China may be like a one-stop shop. They've probably already been manufacturing for Amazon sellers for a number of years. So you just ask them to do it. A lot of the stuff you don't have to explain. Mexico is like the opposite. All right, you may have to hold their hand a little bit, because maybe the first time they've ever done anything for products sold on Amazon or the consumer market. Okay. Also, you will need to factor in more preparation, especially the details of all of the products that you're sourcing. You have to be even more detailed in your specifications, in your pictures, in all of the tolerances, just because they may not be as familiar with Amazon type products. Okay. But I don't mean to say, only bad things about Mexico, because Mexico has several key advantages, especially in the cheaper shipping. It's just south of the border. Rather than paying like, $16,000-$20,000 a container, it probably will be just a few $1,000s, right? It could be, similar to what you were paying to ship a container from China before the whole COVID, the craziness and the perfect storm. Okay. So you can save a lot of money on shipping. One of the other key differences is in the culture, right? So, we know that China has a very intensive work culture. Alibaba CEO Jack Ma really cracks the whip on their employees. They have what they call like a 996 work schedule. Augustus, have you heard of that? The 996 work schedule in China?
No, no.
Basically, it's insane. They work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. That's the expectation in China. So that's how China was able to gain so much market economy growth with that culture. They work like crazy. If you WeChat them at like 8 p.m. on a Saturday night, they're probably still going to reply you, right? Mexico is a little different. It's more laid back. Like you think about like Pura Vida. It's like lifestyle. So don't expect as quick as China. That's one kind of mindset and cultural difference if you've worked with China for a number of years. And then one of the other key differences is with Mexico, there's no tariffs, right? So immediately you can shave off 25% off of your cost of goods, right? There's actually some free trade agreements in North America if you're in the US that you can enjoy. So it could be duty free as well. So definitely look at the numbers, guys, because every product category is different, right, in terms of the duties and the tariffs. So if you are considering that, these are some of the key considerations that you got to know. All right. So next, I'd like to go into Vietnam. Okay, so Vietnam is a country in Southeast Asia. We're seeing a lot of growth in this country as well. Many of the major clothing companies, sportswear, shoes, Nike, Under Armour, even the Japanese clothing maker Uniqlo, we're seeing a lot of them shift their production over there. Um, and the prime minister of Vietnam actually met with Apple CEO Tim Cook recently. They're talking about bringing more manufacturing for Apple, with their iPad, iPod, AirPods, etc. If you check your AirPods, some of the latest batch of AirPods, they're actually made in Vietnam. Okay, so we are seeing a shift going into Vietnam. One of the main reasons is ever since the tariffs in China, many of the factories, actually some of the Chinese factories, I don't know if you've heard of this, some Chinese factory owners, they opened up factories in Vietnam because Vietnam allows foreign-owned manufacturing. They allow foreign-owned factories. So these Chinese factory owners, they did this to circumvent the tariffs between U.S. China, right? So you may be able to get some of the exact same products made in Vietnam that you could get in China. Okay, so that's one of the advantages. Okay, some of the disadvantages, the biggest difference that I see right now, and this has changed just in the last 2 years because Vietnam has seen an explosion in sourcing requests. Big players only, like most of the suppliers, they want MOQs of a container. Okay, we're not talking about 500 units like in China. They want a full container load. Okay, the reason is because their capacity is limited, and then they've seen a spike in demand, so they can be picky and choosy, if you know what I mean. Okay, so Vietnam, I don't really recommend it if you're a small seller or if you're just getting started. So more for the big players only, and they're more used to doing business with like a Nike, with the Apple, with a Uniqlo, rather than small players. Okay, but
Even the Chinese-owned factories?
yes, we're seeing that as a general trend, even the Chinese owned factories, because it's just, Vietnam, they don't have as robust of the, just having the number of manufacturers as a China. So we're seeing a lot of demand go into Vietnam ever since the tariffs, and also with, during the pandemic right now, a lot of people are worried about China because we don't know if, they have the zero COVID policy, they could shut down like a city overnight. So it's kind of difficult to put our eggs in that basket if that's one of the, kind of the geopolitical risks. So we're seeing a lot more demand going into Vietnam. Okay, but it's a mistake to think that it's the same as China. There's some important cultural differences. Doing business, the business style is a little different. I mean, in China, everyone's eager to do business with most everyone. Vietnam, it tends to be more direct, more blunt, a little bit more picky and choosy. And then also one other big difference is it's a lot harder to find factories than finding Chinese factories. And also the speed, the pace will be slower than China. One of the main reasons is because of the whole supply chain. Many of the raw materials, for example, we talked a lot about clothing. Vietnam is also very strong in like backpacks, bags. A lot of the raw materials are actually imported from China, right? So they're not making it domestically in Vietnam. So they have to factor in that time to bring the product from China into Vietnam and then cut and sew and then assemble it for you. So that's why the lead time will be longer. Okay. One of the, in terms of tariffs, Vietnam does have free trade agreements with a couple of key regions. Okay, they have free trade agreements with Europe, with Australia, and also with Southeast Asian countries. So depending on where you are, you may be able to enjoy some of these benefits, duty-free type products that you wouldn't be able to get from other countries. All right, so that's an overview of Vietnam for you. All right. So next, I like to jump into USA. All right. So I think especially for American politicians, they kind of have the American dream. They want to, bring back all these jobs, open up all these factories again. But I don't mean to be the the bringer of bad news, but that whole manufacturing era, that ship has sailed like decades ago, and I don't see that coming back. And just in terms of the skilled labor, like the engineers, there's, I think there was like a joke, like within 1 square kilometer in like one city in China, like Shenzhen, China, you probably can find more engineers than like all of the US, right? Because like Americans aren't really trained in engineering, and you see a lot of the people with engineering degrees and experience in these universities, they're American universities, they're actually immigrants. There very few of them are actually Americans. And I was born and raised in the US, and I went to school in the US as well, so it's kind of interesting. And then after they graduate, many of them go back to their home countries, which is kind of like a brain drain. Anyways, that's a side note, but the key takeaway is the US is not a one-stop shop. So you can't expect like China, you can just come with an RFQ with like a picture and then expect them to create that product and even create a mold for you, right? The US manufacturers that we're seeing, they don't have the capabilities to create a mold, or if they do, it's going to cost like 10 times or 15 times more. And it's going to take a lot longer than if you were to do it in China. So it's not a one-stop shop for your products. I think one of the keys, the benefits is, you're sourcing in your backyard, in your home country if you're in the US. So a lot shorter shipping times, and other benefits are in terms of communications, right? Everyone's in the same time zone, same business culture, no language barriers, and in terms of tariffs and duties, there's no tariffs, no duties. Obviously, the labor cost will be higher in the US compared to overseas. So you have to run the math, do the numbers. And I think one of the other benefits is the made in the USA prestige, like that brand, like that badge of honor, right? You may be able to price your product at a premium when it comes to sourcing from the US. In terms of the actual product selection is more limited. I'd like to quickly share a table, countries at a glance. Okay, so this is kind of like, almost like if you're traveling and, you have your Lonely Planet guidebook, and then you're thinking about, hey, where should I go? I want to find, sourcing everything under the sun. China is a good option for you, right? It's still the sourcing king, but it's not as cheap as before. But they're getting affected by the COVID, the effects, right? So that's taking, you have to factor that into the equation. I would say that India is probably the quickest rising country, but only for certain types of products that we'll get into. Mexico, there's a lot of enthusiasm. We're seeing sourcing trips down to Mexico, but you really have to hold the supplier's hand. You really have to educate them about what you need in terms of your Amazon FBA products, and also like the cultural difference. It's not going to be as fast paced as Asia. And then in terms of Vietnam, big MOQs, guys. We're talking at least one container load to start. So if you're a 7-figure seller, probably you're at that level. If you're just getting started, I would consider some of the other countries. USA only for a certain number of products, not a one-stop shop. Higher labor costs, but benefits in terms of sourcing in your backyard, the made in USA brand, as well as no duties and tariffs. Okay, so I'd like to quickly give you an idea of some examples of types of products that you can get from each country. Okay, so obviously I can't go through every single product that exists, right? So these are some of the top products that come to mind when it comes to e-commerce and Amazon sellers. So in terms of metal products, China is probably the best bet. India also can do metal, but if you're talking about more high quality, like machine-made metal, China is the best bet. India is better for more like hand finished type of metal, like tin. China will be good for like stainless steel and more high quality type products. And just as an example, I've traveled to, I've lived in China over a decade, and I've visited India and factories there. And one of the kitchen products that I made is aluminum alloy type kitchen product. In China, they can make it pretty, without much difficulty. But in India, at least in 2019, they weren't at that level yet. They said you probably have to go to China to do that. Okay, so there is still a gap. In terms of wooden products, we see that they're available in many different countries: China, India, Mexico, Vietnam. In terms of toys, I think that China is one of the big leaders. India does have toys in terms of wooden type products. In terms of clothing, textile, in terms of natural products like cotton, jute, these type of products, we're seeing that China, India, Mexico, Vietnam, and also USA. USA has a whole garment district in Los Angeles and in New York, so they actually can manufacture locally. And just a side note, my mother is a retired fashion designer, and she manufactured all of her women's wear, all of her clothing since the late 80s, 90s, exclusively in downtown LA. So there's actually a fashion district there. If you are selling clothes or anything like textile related, you can't get it made in the USA. I mean, you got to do your homework, but it can be done there. Okay. The reason I separate the clothing textiles between natural and synthetic is synthetic type products, we're talking about like polyester, these type of blended products like modal, these fancier type products. China is still the best bet for that because China has the technology to do that. When I went to India, anything that was like synthetic man-made, they had difficult time with that, and then they had to import it. And same with Vietnam. For those type of like backpacks, like if you think about those waterproof like Cordura type of nylon, they would import it from China usually. So you were seeing less of that, these type of synthetic materials. In terms of eco-friendly, India, Vietnam is good. China also has some eco-friendly products. Home decor, we're seeing China, India, Mexico. Electronics and tech, China is still the world leader in this. Vietnam is starting to come up. You saw that they're talking with Apple. Apple has open factories there. AirPods are being made there, but it's still very early in terms of that. And I think another key thing to consider is anytime you need a plastic mold or a tool, like a plastic injection type thing, China is still the world leader in that. I don't see many manufacturers in India, Mexico, Vietnam, or even USA doing that. Okay, so that's a high level rundown of the different opportunities as we consider sourcing from all over the world beyond just China. I hope this is helpful for you guys as you consider sourcing from different places, because it just makes sense to kind of de-risk this, right? Because China is still kind of volatile, and we can't even visit China at the time of this recording, right, Augustus? I can't even go back to China right now. So and if you were sourcing from there, you can't even visit your manufacturers, right? But India is open. Mexico is open. I believe Vietnam is open, and the U.S. you can travel to as well, right? So you can actually visit factories in person, going to those other destinations that you cannot do as of right now. All right. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, guys. I wanted to share with you this exciting new event that I've created called the 7-Figure Sourcing Summit. So this is an online event. It's a 2-day event focused 100% just on sourcing. Okay, so we're going to deep dive with over 10 different sourcing experts from all of these different countries. We'll have live panel discussions talking about what 7- and 8-figure sellers are doing, and you can also get your questions and answers. We'll look at the pros and the cons of all these different sourcing destinations, and also you'll basically learn how to source from A to Z. I mean, day one we'll talk about all of the different sourcing countries, the destinations. We have sourcing agents as well. We have 7- and 8-figure sellers talking about what's working right now. So I'm very excited about this. And day two, we'll talk more about advanced sourcing strategies, negotiations, quality control, shipping. We have a shipping expert as well, how you can save money, time and money when it comes to shipping. So you'll really get sourcing, supply chain, shipping from A to Z. And we are going to hook you up with the free pass as you're watching this with Augustus and Orange Click. You can get the free pass at the link below the video. All right. So I hope this is helpful, guys. I know this year, there's a lot of optimism as we're coming out of the pandemic, but at the same time, in terms of e-commerce, there's a lot of changes. So I hope that this is helpful as you consider sourcing, not just from China, but these other countries, Vietnam, Mexico, India, and USA. All right. So thank you so much. And any questions?
Yes, it's amazing, Gary. It's a lot of good insights. And the biggest, maybe first issue I always see like a language barrier. Like in China, I guess it's also there is a language barrier, but all these manufacturers maybe already have some people working in English. But Mexico can be an issue maybe with English language, and Vietnam, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Mexico is an issue. And even if you speak Spanish, like Mexico Spanish is different from European, like Spain Spanish. So I would suggest if you can find someone that can help you if you don't speak Spanish. Vietnam language is an issue as well. I mean, you have to look for factories that speak English. Yeah, so that would be an issue. India language is less of an issue just because English is one of the official languages. So that's one of the differences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what about European countries? Have you heard any good, I don't know, tips from big countries like Poland and Romania?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. Me personally, looking at the data, I saw that Turkey is one of the biggest sourcing hotspots when it comes to European countries. But personally, I don't have direct experience in that. I mean, anecdotally, I've spoken to some 7 and 8 figure sellers. They are doing some of their sourcing from Europe, depending on their product. Some people are actually they're doing part of the final packaging and the kitting, the bundling in Europe. So this way they kind of hide the secret sauce, right? They don't do everything in China. So like their factory knows exactly what they're doing. They can just copy it, right? So, but yeah, I'm curious, Augustus, have you heard anything about sourcing from Europe? You're in Europe, right?
Yes, I'm in Europe. I don't think there is like a good resource. I remember in the past some people said that on Alibaba you can filter by European suppliers, but there is, to my knowledge, I haven't heard of any good like resource in Europe to source products. So it's quite complex. So I know that there is one company in Germany. They like have staff people in different European countries and speak different languages, and they manually source for you products in different countries. So it seems like it's really challenging because Europe, every country lives in their own bubble and they don't know what's happening outside their borders. So there is no this unity like in a big China or in a big US.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking if you do source from Europe, obviously the Eastern European countries would have lower labor costs than, like a France or, the Western European countries. And the other thing is, I believe, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe would it be duty free to move the products within the European borders, like the EU,
Within
or?
European Union, yes, there would be
Yeah, it
no
would be duty
charges.
free, right?
Yeah, duty free.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now I'm curious, why don't we ask the audience, Augustus, if you guys are sourcing from Europe, please comment below. Let us know. I'm personally interested. I'm sure Augustus will be interested as well. And maybe if there's some good value there, we can have you on the sourcing summit or the next event, either with Augustus or myself. But yeah, that is another trend that we're seeing. I mean, nearshoring, right? What we talked about at the beginning, nearshoring for the US is Latin America, South America, Mexico, right? But nearshoring for Europe could be Eastern Europe, it could be Poland, it could be Turkey, it could be another country, right? So I'm sure there's people doing that, but we haven't heard about it. So if you do know, please comment below and let us know.
Yes, I know some people even had like they were sourcing in Ukraine. Of course, now at the moment it's maybe not possible, not so easy.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
There is a Romania, another big country near Ukraine, and I heard some person was moving his factory from Ukraine to Romania. So yeah, I think there are good countries there. All right. So again, we would invite you to check the link below for the 7-Figure Sourcing Summit, where Gary is inviting different sourcing specialists to talk about sourcing from different world countries. Yeah, thank you very much, Gary. And all the links, again, you will find below this video. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And good luck in your business. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you got some useful tips from Gary about sourcing your Amazon products from China, US, Mexico, Vietnam, and India. And please check his online event, which is called 7-Figure Sourcing Summit. The link is below this video. And you can listen or learn from more than 10 sourcing experts in his online event about sourcing from different countries, and you will get more useful tips or additional useful tips. And now I would like to invite you to watch other video with Gary where he talks about sourcing from China in 2022.